Neckzilla has been in the pro league for almost 2 years now. However, being the next big thing in bodybuilding is a double-edged sword. Until the potential is realized, it's all hype. And if you don't realize that potential, you're gonna get shit on. And he certainly hasn't capitalized on even a fraction of his true potential. But what has he been doing in his 2 years in the pro league? Today I have another episode of my progress report series where I take a look at different versions of a bodybuilder and compare them to themselves to see where they've improved, stayed stagnant, or have gotten worse. For this video, we'll take Neckzilla's 2024 do by pro version and compare it to this year's version from the same contest. That way the lighting, stage production, and things of that nature will be fairly consistent. After that, we're going to take a look at his pro card winning physique so we can see how he's evolved over his entire career in the pro league thus far. So here is Rubiel Mosquera's progress report. Remember, if you guys like these types of videos, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. For this particular pose, I did have to use the 2023 Prog Pro version in the main comparison. We won't use it. We're going to use the 2025 as the main comparison here. But for this one, we're just going to have to roll with it. But here we can talk a little bit more in depth about what he's done from 2023 to now 2025, which has been the entirety of his pro career up until this point. The first thing I notice is probably the balance. It's a little bit better. You know, the legs are going to be Neckzilla's legs. They're always going to be big, but I think the upper body is a bit bigger. It's just more substantial. You know, he can actually match. The arms are bigger, which actually does help in balance when you have these massive calves. You gotta balance it up top as well. Then you have these great lats, even more chest presence in this pose as well. However, the other thing that sticks out to me is going to be that leg separation. I mean, it's quite literally off-season mode. But I mean, just imagine if these legs were actually separated, even just to a decent amount. Imagine how crazy these legs would look. That will probably be his main critique going forward. But all in all, this pose is slightly better than it was before. Nothing major really changes. You know, he's added a little bit upstairs to all these different muscle groups and the balance is a little bit better, but I'm still missing that condition. Now on the side chest with my sizing, you can see I made him just a little bit shorter, and that's because he's crunching down a lot more now. But I don't think that's a bad decision. Overall, I think his posing is a lot better on this one. He's squeezing the pecs a lot more. He's taking that far pec and pushing it a little bit more towards the audience at least, and he's crunching down on the abs more, so we're getting more detail in the chest and the abs. And he's probably a little more conditioned too, because I think there's a little more detail in the arm, and again, the midsection and the pecs. And even in terms of overall size, maybe he's slightly smaller now in order to get that condition, because I don't think he grew a whole lot in between these shows. But even if he is slightly smaller, it was definitely worth it. And for going forward, it's going to be worth it for him to come in smaller if he's more conditioned. It's going to be like a Big Ramy situation. He used to come in at like 305 or whatever, and everyone just kept saying if you come in at 285, even 295, you would actually win as long as you had the condition. That's exactly what Neckzilla needs to do. He's got the size. No one is outmassing this. So even if he's a little bit smaller now, it just doesn't matter. But honestly, the condition and detail aspects don't even matter in this post. This is probably the best side chest out there right now. The only reason I'm critiquing him at all is because I'm comparing him to himself. But all in all, he did actually improve this pose and made it even better. The detail's a little more apparent and the posing is a little bit better to my estimation. Now we gotta go to the back poses. When Rubiel first came onto the scene, I was saying that his back was actually probably really good. We just couldn't see a whole lot of it because of the fluff. Well, now that he's shredded down a little bit, he's revealed a lot more of his back, and I will say he probably needs a little more density, muscle maturity, thickness, things of that nature. Things that come with time in the gym, and I don't think he's actually that big of a fan of bodybuilding, so we'll see if we get that. But as is, his back is honestly okay. I think it just looks a little weak because the legs are so thick and dense. When I say that the back needs more thickness, understand what I mean is it needs to match the level of muscularity of his legs. But then again, Rubiel is so big and wide and pretty developed as is. Even if he just shredded down a little more, I mean, it's going to be hard for a lot of guys to beat that because he has the sheer size. And if that lower body was shredded to add to that, I don't see a whole lot of people beating that. But as we have it here, the back does look smaller than 2024, but that's just a lot of the fluff going away. You can see the lower lats are less blurry, and the entire back has a lot more of these nooks and crannies, which is a good thing. But the lower body condition really isn't that good. Clearly, he's going to need to cut down a lot harder to get some condition in his lower half, but you know, it is slightly more shredded now. So yet again, all in all, we do have some slight improvement in condition, which leads to an overall better pose. Now, I added the second back pose to better illustrate what I mean when I was critiquing Rubiel's back. You can definitely see here when he's spreading his wings, the back looks slightly flimsy. And again, I think this is really just because his legs legs are so thick and dense, but if you're gonna have thick and dense legs, you probably want a back to match. So going forward, this is like one of the only areas Rubiel needs to improve, but he just really needs a little bit more thickness. And yet again, by virtue of being Neckzilla and being as big and as wide as he is, in a pose that primarily looks at how big and wide you are, he's going to be able to defeat a lot of opponents just as is, again, if he got shredded. Now we have the abs and thighs, and this is yet another case of better execution. In 2024, he was really flexing up and in. If you know how to flex your abs, you know there are several ways you can do it, and Rubiel should not be doing this one. But in 2025, he's actually flexing down and showcasing how good his abs actually are. We know he's not in the best condition, but he has these nice blocky, bubbly abs, so they look pretty good. I even think the waist looks smaller now in 2025. Now that belly button is something that may need to be addressed going forward, but for right now, I don't think it's too much of a problem, at least for me. However, what is a problem is the quad separation, or the complete lack thereof. The problem for Neckzilla is that his legs stick out, and they're always going to stick out. He has these insanely developed quads, and calves too for that matter. But when they stick out to somebody, that's immediately going to draw attention to the complete lack of separation he has going on. Having legs this big and not having them at least decently separated is a crime, or at least it should be. Better execution in the abs though. I think his abs are actually a strong point. When you see a mass monster, you usually expect a pretty bad waist, but in Rubiel's case, he still has all the size and has maintained a great waist and good abs. And then finally, we have the most muscular. In a lineup, this is going to be a great shot regardless of his condition, just because he's going to stand out. But imagine if he just had the condition. In 2025, he's a bit better, you know, but the only things he's really better in are the abs and a little bit more chest detail. Other than that, this is just the same Neckzilla. It's still going to be a freaky pose, but it could be so much better. Alright, so what's the verdict on Neckzilla's progress? Well, between the 2024 and 2025 Dubai Pros, there was a noticeable amount of progress, I guess you can say. The main thing that improved was conditioning. Come to think of it, it was probably the only thing that improved, but it wasn't even that big of a difference, but it was noticeable, I guess. That small conditioning increase made pretty much every pose a little better, so all in all, this was an upgrade from last year's version. But at the same time, his placing actually got worse. To be fair, at this year's show, I do think he was slightly overlooked, but I don't think in any instance he would have beat his 4th place from last year. To be honest, I think the judges probably want to see more from him, like we all do. We all know how great he could be. No one else looks like Rubiel, no one ever has. So maybe a slight knock in placings was the judges saying good, but not good enough. That's what I'm thinking after this comparison. Was he better? Sure, but we're talking like 5% better. Like, he improved his worst aspect, conditioning, so of course he got rid of a little baggage and that's going to help. But again, he could just be so much better with minimal tweaks. So I'm still disappointed, but that's only because his ceiling is so high. I'm not saying he's not improved, I said the opposite twice now, but come on. He should not be getting 5% better in between shows. Not at this stage in his career. He's actually pretty young, and he spent less than 2 years in the Pro League. We should definitely be seeing bigger changes from him. And when I say I want changes, I basically just mean condition. No one is telling him that he needs to grow or do anything else. He could improve some points, but he doesn't have to do year or 2 year long off seasons like some other guys need to do starting out in the Pro League. But anyway, I want to tie up a loose end here very quickly and compare Rubiel to his 2023 Pro Card winning version, because I did see some people saying he wasn't improved since then. I can see why some might say that. In all honesty, I think the condition from 2023 is extremely close to 2025. So he started out with poor condition in 2023, then got worse in 2024, then a bit better in 2025. With that said, I'm now even more disappointed in his minimal improvement this year. I will say though, with the condition being similar in 2025, it is just the better version with the improved upper body. The back is definitely better, and overall the balance is because of those improvements. But I mean, this isn't a debate we should be having. In his 2 years in the Pro League, he's improved, but he definitely hasn't hit the ground running. I mean, as an amateur, he was freaky, so he did get a running start, sure, but where has he gone after that? Not very far, not as far as he should be. I'm not trying to be negative, but I am begging someone to tell him to just lock in for a year or two and see what can happen. I think at that point he'd see a ton of success and would be even more determined for the next phase of his career. As a fan, that's what I want to see. I have to see this guy at his best, because again, who else has ever looked like this? I don't know when or if we'll ever get that though. You'd think that easily winning your pro card, then placing 3rd in your first pro show would be tantalizing enough to keep you pushing ahead, but it doesn't seem to be the case. genetics. Unfortunately, I just don't think Rubiel actually likes competitive bodybuilding all that much, but with those genetics, he kinda doesn't have to. The sport can reward him so much if he just locked in. Now, I have to note some very important developments that occurred while making this video. Neckzilla did not one, but 2 shows and won them both. So he's Olympia qualified now, doubly so. When I started this video, he had only competed at the Dubai Pro so far. I don't think the packages he brought were too much different from what we saw from that Dubai Pro version. He has improved like 1 to 3% at each show. On net, it's probably 5% better than he was in Dubai. But all the things I said in this video still stand, and my mind really hasn't changed on the bigger picture. I still wish he was more conditioned, and I don't think a guy of his caliber should make such slow improvements as he is, especially because of the condition is the only thing he really needs to work on. But besides that, I am a lot more hopeful for his career now. Up until this season, Rubiel has had a reputation of pulling out of shows. He literally pulled out of more shows than he competed in. Now we're seeing something different. I think he is growing more excited for bodybuilding. It's blood in the water. I think he is now realizing himself that he can be really good. He can win pro shows and go to the Olympia at the bare minimum. And once he is there, under those lights next to those guys, I think and hope he'll be even more invested in the sport. We'll have to wait and see. I will say this though, he should see this through on some level for some amount of time. He's just too good not to. When you have a gift as good as this, you should probably go all in at least for some amount of time just to see how it plays out. He doesn't have a lot to do, and then once he does those things like get on a treadmill, he can be fighting for literal Mr. Olympia titles. Hopefully he can see what we all see and really get locked in. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. What did you think of Neckzilla's progress, and what do you think he could do in the sport if he was at his all-time best? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you guys like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. And if you want to get your hands on some high-quality supplements while supporting the channel even further, head over to Arms Race Nutrition. Then at checkout, use my code Project10 to get 10% off your entire order. That's code Project10 on armsracenutrition.com. And finally, with all that said, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.
Get Neckzilla.